Good morning. Before I get underway this morning, I wanted to point out two quick things. Number one, choir starts. Not this week, but next week. So next week, Wednesday evening at 6:30, starting the Wednesday after Memorial Day. Labor Day, good Lord. Labor, Memorial, they all mix it. It's all a giant mix in my head. It'll be Memorial Day again soon before you know it. Also, after the beautiful service last week, after Jess and Roy sang True Colors so beautifully, and I had the fun playing Time After Time, I had a couple questions afterwards, and I wanted to point out that Cyndi Lauper is alive and doing just fine. She released a new single last month called, I have it right here, called Oh Dolores, and it's from a home video horror television series, The Horror of Dolores Ranch. It's available on Prime. So not only is she not dead, she's doing real well and working on some new stuff.
Welcome to Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I'm Reverend Matthew, the pastor serving you all, and I hope that this morning has been a good one for you. And if not, that something good will yet happen to you today. And in that spirit, good morning. Good morning. Our faith tradition, Unitarian Universalism, has no doctrine and requires no creed. We gather in a covenant, choosing how we will relate to one another, how we will care for each other, how we will seek justice in the world. Within our covenants, then, we hold many, many, many overlapping beliefs about what is true and ultimate, and how it is that we live together. So you may be a theist or an atheist, or somewhere in between. You may find meaning in Christian or Hindu imagery, language, rituals, or daily practices, or you might just believe in the beauty and the power of human beings working together. You and what you believe is welcome here in our covenant. And in that spirit, I'm very grateful to Reverend Julie and Reverend Carrie for joining us today. They will be sharing with us the place where paganism and Unitarian Universalism overlap, while at the same time living into how it is that we practice covenant. They'll be showing us. Now, I've known both of these two leaders from my visits to the UU Church of Tucson and through our Baja 4 collaborations and our ongoing collaborations. And they are both teaching me about the big tent of pagan Unitarian Universalism. I'm excited that they have planned a wonderful message for you all this morning. So thank you. Our covenant here at MVUU is our method to create community. Covenant is how we govern and make budgets and policies. Covenant is how we create and carry out our programming, and it is how we have committed ourselves to interact with one another. So in that spirit, each Sunday, there are many, many, many people who share their time and talent to bring our community to life. This morning, you've already been welcomed by our greeters, or welcomers. You've been greeted by our welcomers. That's how it works. There in the Covenant Hall, where our hospitality team has been active preparing refreshments for our time following the service in the Oasis Room. There are gluten-free and vegan options. Our Religious Exploration Committee, under the leadership of our coordinator, Stacy Sosa, ensures that our youngest have an enriching program in the Nest room, which is right over here, which you will hear because our walls don't go all the way to the ceiling. And our audio-visual team is active making sure that all y'all, online and here in person, can perceive with your senses what is happening. And if you need assistance, please online chat with your Zoom host, or if you need assistance here, just approach them back in the booth. At the same time, Chris Tackett, our music director, has been planning and preparing alongside Reverend Julie and Reverend Carrie to craft this service. And in all of that, it occurred to me how odd it is that none of our covenants expressly say how much we value gratitude. It's not a word that appears there in any thesaurus version. And yet gratitude and appreciation and thanks is very much a part of our faith and our congregational life. And so in this spirit, I invite all of you who are joining us online to turn on your cameras, and in a moment, all of us to turn to one another online and here and welcome one another in gratitude for the many, many, many gifts of time and talent we share. Let us welcome one another. It is good to be together.
Good morning. You'll notice as we go through the service today that there are a few elements that you probably aren't used to in a regular UU service. We've added a few Wiccan elements today. But first, let me briefly introduce us and talk a little bit about modern paganism. Carrie and I are here today because we are leaders of the Covenant, Southern Arizona Covenant of Unitarian Universalist Pagans, which is a mouthful, so we say SASCUPs. I'm a member of this church, but Carrie and I are both ordained through Sacred Well Congregation, an international Wiccan church. Carrie is also a teacher with Stone Circle Wicca, which focuses on spiritual development and services to the divine. And we are in ministry covenant with Reverend Bethany at UUCT. The credentials we have also help us to provide services and support the chaplain at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. We help provide ministry to military members and their families who follow Wiccan, pagan, and other earth-based practices. Paganism is a broad term that encompasses many different paths, whose practitioners all embrace the idea that nature is sacred. All pagans honor life on earth and celebrate being alive. We're a diverse community. Wicca is the largest single tradition within the United States, but there are other denominations, such as Druids and heathens and Thelemites. We all follow an earth-based calendar of 8 nature-based festivals called the Wheel of the Year. Some Wiccans believe in deity and that it manifests in both male and female forms. Others don't believe in deity at all, like me. Some also perform magical and religious rites during different phases of the moon. Individual Wiccans might worship one god. They might be polytheists who worship many gods, and they may be humanists who worship none. But we have a primary ethical rule called the Rede, and harm it none, do as you will. Modern Wicca was founded in the 1940s by a British man named Gerald Gardner. He claimed he had been initiated into a local ancestral witchcraft tradition in England, a religion handed down from pre-Christian times. He added elements of ceremonial magic and folklore and created a new religion, and he called it Wicca. It came to the United States in the 1960s and quickly gained popularity. The Wicca we practice today is not exactly what ancestors practiced or even what Gerald Gardner did so many years ago, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be unchanged for hundreds of years to be valid. Our Wiccan ancestors didn't drive cars, and they didn't have toasters. To quote Druid Philip Carr-Gomm, we are living with the inspiration and the ethos of our spiritual ancestors. In every age, we must create the spirituality that answers to the needs and the spirit of the times. Traditionally, Wiccans have had to worship in secret because witchcraft was illegal and punishable by death. So they often worshiped in people's homes and created their own sacred space. Even though we are in a beautiful church today, we are going to cast a circle and create Wiccan sacred space today. And we're going to do it with a guided meditation called the Heart Circle. So if you would close your eyes and get comfortable and take a few deep breaths. Just follow your breath in and out. Become aware of your beating heart, that spark of energy within you. And as you exhale, let some of that energy expand and make a circle around you. Each time you breathe out, the circle expands a little more, and you may feel the energy from the person next to you. After a while, it's encompassed an entire part of the room. And pretty soon, it's got the entire room, so that all of our energy is creating a protective and warm circle around us here and at home on Zoom. The circle is cast. We are between the worlds.
We will now call in the 4 elements and directions to protect our sacred circle. I invite you to stand if you are willing and able as we reverence the directions to face them, or we can also point if that's more comfortable, or use your hand. Since I'm on the mic, I'll be pointing, because if I turn, then you won't be able to hear me. Our words come from hymn reading 446 in the UUA hymnal, Singing the Living Tradition. Spirit of the East, Spirit of air, of morning and springtime, be with us as the sun rises, in times of beginning, times of planting. Inspire us with the fresh breath of courage as we go forth into new adventures. Spirit of the south, spirit of fire, of noontime and summer, be with us through the heat of the day and help us to be ever growing. Warm us with strength and energy for the work that awaits us. Spirit of the west, spirit of water, of evening and autumn, be with us as the sun sets and help us to enjoy a rich harvest. Flow through us with a cooling, healing quietness and bring us peace. And spirit of the north, spirit of earth, of nighttime and winter, be with us in the darkness, in the time of gestation. Ground us in the wisdom of the changing seasons as we celebrate the spiraling journey of our lives. Hail and welcome.
North doesn't want to be lit today.
We light a chalice, a symbol of our faith, for the warmth within this circle and the energy of loving kindness among us. We use these words by Allison Ehrman. Light this candle with a steady hand.
Okay.
Tend this gathering with a caring spirit. Care for this garden with an understanding heart. Harvest this bounty with a determined love. In a moment, we will share in our opening hymn, Blue Boat Home. We do know where the fire extinguisher is, so everything's fine. So you're aware. It's a little pyrotechnic-y at this moment, but it is okay. It'll burn off the stuff that's, yeah, we're good. I invite you to rise as you are willing and able and join your voices together with Joel leading us.
Standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor nor port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep. Drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens on our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on. Greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor nor port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Thank you. Please be seated. It's still kind of flamey there, which had me laughing during the hymn, but it added to my enjoyment, so thank you all for all of that. Yes, there's a lot of metaphors, there's a lot of meanings. Go ahead, shout them out, yeah. All right, we got that out of our system. I invite you now to a time of blessing. Just for a moment, may we acknowledge that divine within each of us and expand our awareness to hold the dignity of all. Molly Remmer, in her words, reminds us of who we are with some gestures, and you can join me if you wish. I touch my third eye, and I am open to possibilities. I am open to peace. I fold both hands across my heart, and I am nourished by love. I lay my hands against my belly. I am my own sacred space. I am centered in my wholeness. I know what I need. I can trust myself. I open my arms to the sky. I am free to choose. I belong here. And I return my hands to my heart. I am here. I am whole. I live my magic.
I mentioned earlier that we celebrate the Wheel of the Year. These are the holidays based on the seasons and the local climate. There are festivals for the summer and winter solstice, for the spring and fall equinox, and then there are cross-quarter days that happen in between those. For example, the Imbolc festival happens in early February between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. Most traditional rituals for Imbolc talk about dreary winter days and chills and melting patches of snow. You might have heard about divination activities that happen with a rodent who's telling us about how many weeks of winter we might have left. But in February, here, it's 70 degrees. You'll be very hard-pressed to find some snow to do a ritual with. So we try to take into account our landscape and our climate when we do our rituals here. Modern paganism is a religion of personal gnosis, Gnosis, right? My truth is not your truth. No one's truth will be the same. One of the way we find our truths is through meditation, and today we're going to do a short harvest meditation. We're going to take an imaginary trip over to Wilcox today. So again, if you would get comfortable in your chair and close your eyes, breathe in and out slowly, comfortably. It's now late August, and our last festival was Lammas, the loaf mass. Our next festival is the fall equinox, when the fruit and the vegetables are ready. So picture in your mind's eye that you're standing on the edge of an orchard. You can see pear trees and apple trees, some nectarines and peaches. And you can reach out and pick a piece of ripe fruit from one of the trees in front of you. Did you just get the fruit? Did you get some of the branch? Did you get some leaves? Do you need those things to eat the fruit? Probably not. So you can discard anything that isn't going to nourish you. As you walk through the orchard, take a bite of that ripe fruit and taste the sweetness. Think about what you are ready to harvest in your own life. Are there seeds that you planted in the spring that are ready for harvest, or do they need a little more time? Are there things you're ready to let go of? And you may encounter a being while you're in the orchard. Might be human, a spirit, an animal, and they may have a message for you. So if you've encountered someone, listen for a minute or so. And of course, because we're in church, we can't stay here forever, and we can't stay here maybe as long as we might like. So begin to walk back through the orchard. Thank the being who came to talk to you as you're leaving. And when you're ready, step back into church, open your eyes, and remember that you can go back to this place anytime that you choose. You don't need someone to guide you there. You have that ability and that skill and that power. Thank you for going on a short journey with me. Weirdos.
Nature wears a robe, spun of morning light. Dawn break in me too, flowers bloom below. Teach me to be true, fill my heart with love.
Thank you, Joel. My apologies for not introducing you. Thank you both. That was beautiful. So now, as we start the transform section of today's service, take a few breaths with me. We are this present moment. Feel your connection to the people here with you today in this church or in your Zoom room. Present moment, only moment. Make yourself comfortable and listen while I tell you a story about a typical UU Pagan worship service. The desert air is warm at night. It rained recently, and the refreshing smell of creosote fills the air. A baby fingernail moon promises new beginnings. It's a typical night at one of our cups rituals. About 40 people gather on the brick patio behind the UU sanctuary. Someone places a box of cookies on the potluck table. Someone else brings out folding chairs and makes the circle wider. The round altar sits at the center of the circle, covered with a bright tablecloth. 4 candles anchor the edges. Our ceremony tonight celebrates the summer solstice, and the year is turning again to the next season. The priestess asks for volunteers. Who wants to read the opening words? This is participatory worship, not just something to watch. A retired engineer says he can read the poem about the season. A mom plays guitar while we gather, and her son brought drums to play. We encourage children to join in our magical action. 2 middle schoolers volunteer to invite the East and the West. A 14-year-old girl asks if she can ring the opening bell. When we pray at home, we all have different practices. The heathens pour libations to the great ones from the north and the All-Father and their ancestors. The Druids set up offering bowls and pray for blessings from the land, sea, and sky. The Wiccans call on the god and the goddess, and sometimes just Gaia. Some of us chant prayers and count beads or meditate quietly when we are alone. Some of us don't believe in any gods at all, and some of us have a whole bunch. But when we gather together, most importantly, we put the chalice at the center of our altar. Because we are pagans of all types, but we are also, first and foremost, Unitarian Universalists, and lighting the chalice sanctifies our time together. We light this chalice for the warmth of love and the energy of action. We encourage participation in our circle, and we take turns leading. Who wants to light the chalice tonight?
We are UU Pagans, and we worship at what is, at least right now, the intersection of the 7th principle and the 6th sacred source. It's not easy to say. These are parts of our living UU faith, of course, and caring for our planet Earth, the home we share with all living things, and spiritual teachings of the earth-centered traditions which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. We don't just live at the intersection of these 2 spiritual paths, though. The circles of these 2 faiths overlap, providing us shelter and a deeper well to draw from. A responsive reading from Black Elk in our UU hymnal mentions the many sacred hoops of humanity that make one circle wide as daylight and as starlight. As I said earlier, Wiccans worship in circles. When we're in the UUCT sanctuary, which is an oval-shaped room lined with wood, we already have a ready-made round space to worship in. We turn the wheel of the year together when we celebrate our festivals. And we're an integral part of UUCT, not just guests on the patio. Many pagans come to our Sunday services, and it's powerful to look out and see people that you've been in ritual with there with you on Sunday as well.
So you already know the 7 UU principles, but let's recap. Respect each person, be kind, learn together, search for truth, listen and vote, build a fair and peaceful world, and care for the planet Earth. The Dalai Lama states quite regularly that his religion is kindness. As UUs, we know that your beliefs don't make you a better person, your behavior does. Deeds, not creeds. I value our religion striving for kindness and emphasis on respect. Like UUs, modern pagans are more interested in conversation than conversion. Pagan ethical beliefs are closely aligned with the 7 principles, which makes it easy to be both a faithful UU and a devoted Wiccan. As Julie mentioned, there is only one primary law of ethics for Wiccans, the Rede, which means advice. I like to think of the Rede as do freely the actions that cause no harm. This one law is a little more complicated than the 10 Commandments. Instead of following a long list of memorized rules, Wiccans must think for ourselves and take responsibility for our own actions. We have the freedom, but also the responsibility. One of my teachers is fond of saying, "You made you do it." Sometimes I think having the devil, like I did when I was a Baptist or a Methodist, would be super convenient because then I could blame him, but no. You are responsible for yourself and for the consequences of your actions, both intended and unintended. In addition to the Rede, most Wiccans also believe in the law of return. What you put out comes back to you. Every action creates a reaction. It's science. We believe in doing good for the sake of good and traveling through life with love and compassion.
The mission of Southern Arizona Cups is to connect UUs and pagans of many different faiths in an inclusive, welcoming space. We favor the big tent paganism that deliberately includes many traditions. The big tent concept comes from UU Druid John Beckett, who lives in Texas. Big tent paganism is multi-religious and cheerfully interfaith. Imagine, if you will, a huge circus tent, he says. We like to make the circle wide and pray well with others. He goes on, Druids and Wiccans, heathens and Hellenists, Thelemites and chaos magicians, shamans and seers, kitchen witches and tree huggers, there's room for everyone in the big tent. Draw circles around our groups and no one circle will include us all, but there's lots and lots of overlap in our beliefs, practices, interests, and concerns. Individually, no one tradition is big enough to support these large endeavors, but together, we can. This tent is supported by 4 poles, which are the centers of paganism: nature, the deities, self-development, and community. While other denominations shut people out, UUs find a way to invite people in. The big tent has room for all of us who wish to celebrate. I call myself an eclectic Wiccan, and that's the correct designation, but I've added beliefs and worship practices from other pagan traditions other than the one I was initiated into. I've also studied Eastern religions, and I have incorporated some Taoist and Buddhist beliefs into my spiritual life. If I believed in deity, I would probably be a panentheist, believing that God is found in all things, living and non-living. I do believe there is something that I call the collective unconscious or the universe, but that's not divinity to me. And I believe in reincarnation, which is from that Eastern influences. We spend our lifetimes on the physical plane, learning lessons and working toward attaining perfection again. And that we experience all of the possible things. We will be mother and child, teacher and student. So all of the classes, all of the roles throughout our lifetimes. I'm not sure where in the tent these Eastern influences put me, but I do stand near the nature pole. I revere nature, and following the wheel of the year is deeply meaningful to me. But I don't consider myself an environmental activist. I also stand near the self-development and community poles because I firmly believe that I am supposed to learn throughout my lifetime and that I am better with community.
I'm a technical writer by trade. I'm a techno-pagan and not a tree hugger. I'm not shy about using the compass app on my phone, on my cell phone, to find north when we're setting up for circle outside, or even inside sometimes. The poles I stand closest to are deities and community, especially liturgical development. I am hardwired to love two things: God, spirit, love, divine, and research. Being together with other people and learning about their beliefs has strengthened my spiritual practices. Like any good, plain vanilla Protestant, I wasn't raised with prayer beads, incense, or icons to the goddess. However, all of these high church traditions, the so-called smells, bells, and spells, are invaluable to my spiritual practice today. I was raised Methodist and Presbyterian, as I mentioned, but I choose Wicca and I choose UU as my religions. I love the emphasis on the inherent dignity and worth of every person and the plurality of faiths in our UU congregations. I love that we can worship the one, the many, or the none. My gods are not supernatural or far away. I'm in daily conversation with my divine beloveds. They are familiar and they are family. We're kind of cozy. I describe my time at my altar as tuning in to say hi. It's much less intimidating than saying, "Now I will call on the great mother of the universe, of the ancient ones, to join me." A generic goddess that big is just too far away for me. I have a special devotion to Brige and Lugh, holy ones of the Celtic pantheon. Both are bright deities with many skills who value excellence in worship and devotion. When I am crafting a ritual for our group, formatting the script, digging into a stack of books to find just the right words, researching the right acts to do them honor and create change, I am in the happiest place. The free and responsible search for truth and meaning lights me up like candles on a Yule tree. Paganism is often defined and identified by polytheism by default, especially as it relates to rituals. Many Wiccans, like myself, reverence both the god and the goddess, and maybe a few extras, as representations of the divine reality, many facets of the same jewel.
However, belief in God is not required for Wiccan practice or attunement with the universe. You can meditate because you believe it brings you in alignment with the divine. You can also meditate because you believe that observing your thoughts and brings you in tune with how the world works. Both are valid and holy acts. In our Cups chapter, we make a place for the belief and inclusion of differing views on nature, the gods, and spirituality. One of the things that makes my partnership with Carrie so powerful is our differences. I'm a humanist, and she's a polytheist. We have two great faiths that...
Faith great together.
Sorry, we can't.
We're not
can't
sorry.
help
We'll
that.
say it again.
We can't just take standard ritual texts and use them. For one thing, they don't have any UU content. And for another, standard Wiccan language calling on the Lord and the Lady won't work in inclusive circles. There is no Wiccan holy book to use. Poet J.L. Stanley writes, "When they ask to see your gods, your book of prayers, Show them the lines drawn delicately with veins on the underside of a bird's wing. Each pagan writes their own magical journal. We are pushed to write new material and craft thoughtful rituals that widen our community.
Especially in the 60s, a common pagan blessing was saying, "Thou art goddess, thou art God." It's a reminder that each one of us is divine and worthy of respect. It's our first principle. It's also a reminder that we are responsible for ourselves and to each other. Even if we believe in God or several gods, no deus ex machina is going to save us. No supernatural being is coming out of the sky. We do it ourselves. Because we are not beholden to a holy book, we are free to study many sources of spirituality and wisdom from the world's religions. We can combine the words of a UU Wiccan minister and a famous astronomer to come up with new and profound prayers. In fact, one of my favorite prayer collages combines the words of my friend and mentor, Reverend Catherine Clarenbach, and scientist Carl Sagan. We are cells in the body of God. We are part of all that is. We are children of earth and starry heaven, dust and glitter. We are one. There is not one cell in my body that was not once part of a star.
As one UU Pagan blogger said, we embrace both our pagan identity and our membership in the UU Church. Walking more than one path at a time can clarify the divine's intention to hold all humanity as sacred. Wicca isn't ancient, but it doesn't have to be. It is an effective and meaningful religion. It honors the earth, draws us closer to the land that we live on, and values women as equal to men. It says we don't need a priest to speak to the divine. We are responsible for ourselves, our environment, and each other. The charge of the goddess tells us that mine is the ecstasy of the spirit, mine is also joy on earth, for my love is law to all beings. Minister Vanessa Southern says that our Universalist ancestors were lit up with a commitment to the message of unconditional divine love and the challenge to be disciples of that love. We owe it to our ancestors to carry on their love. The roots of our UU traditions give us wings. The wings of our pagan faith set us free. These two circles of devotion flow together and we sing to the spirit of life with joy.
So mote it be.
So it already is.
Amen.
Amen.
We release our flame with these words by Alison Ehrman. Return to the fields and measure the grain. We have not yet reached the resting point. Carry on with your work and tend the crops. Their worth depends on your effort. Prepare for the harvest and treasure your labor, for the fullness of your reward will be priceless. So mote it be.
We are cleansed by water, charged by fire, refreshed by air, and rooted in earth, and blessed by spirit. Powers of earth, air, fire, and water, thank you for joining us here today. We carry your love in our hearts until we meet again. May peace be between us now and forever. Hail and farewell. Blessed be.
I'd invite you to stand for this. And can we have the words up on the screen, please? It's a simple 2-line round, and let's learn it together, which of course this would be much easier if you all came to choir practice. The circle is now open, but unbroken. Your turn. The circle is now open, but unbroken. Merry meet and merry part and merry meet again. Merry meet and merry part and merry meet again. Let's try it all together. And the circle is now open, but unbroken. Merry meet and merry part and merry meet again. Joel, why don't you take this group right here? Julie, why don't you step over and take this group right here? And I'll take y'all right down the middle. And y'all start with me here. And the circle is now open. The circle unbroken. Merry meet and merry part and merry meet again. Let's do it again. Circle is now open. The circle unbroken. Merry meet and merry part and merry meet again. The circle is now open, but unbroken. Merry meet and merry part and merry meet again. Merry meet again. Merry meet again. Merry meet again.
Before we go out to our fellowship and what our hospitality team has prepared for us, I have a few announcements. As you go into the Oasis room, through those doors, you will find a wooden bowl and a woven basket. The bowl is for your financial support of this congregation. It's by our collective donations and pledges offered according to what each can afford that we support our church institution. The basket is for our monthly partners, those organizations and groups actively doing the work of crafting a juster and fairer world in our immediate community. And all this month we have been collecting for our partnership with Hendricks and Laguna elementary schools. Both are here in the Flowing Wells district, and our collection for them offers them school supplies to match the tutoring and the landscape cleanup that we also engage in with them. Every gift you make to our congregation and our partners is gratefully accepted. Tucson Pride Fest is a-comin'. We will march with an interfaith community on Friday night in the parade. We will have a Baja Four table from noon to 9 p.m. at the festival in Reed Park. And we will be joining in an interfaith celebration on Sunday, October 1st, the Sunday of that weekend, at the Tucson Holocaust Museum. More details are rapidly being worked out, so pay attention to our communications. It will be a full and faith-filled weekend to celebrate Pride. As I've worked along those interfaith clergy and religious leaders and congregations here in Tucson, I've discovered that most of them do not have anything like our Whole Lives, the OWL program. And even more, that the local liberal clergy and progressive religious leaders who know and respect our OWL program, they send their families to it. Do you get what that means? That interfaith people, they understand that this is the very program they want their own families to be involved in. We have many levels of this, but we're currently putting together our 9 to 12-year-old class. We currently have 4 children signed up for that, so we are already feeling successful. But there are many other programs throughout the year, and then we'll begin repeating them for our elders, for young adults, for senior high, for junior high, and then also the younger programs for our children. If you are interested in knowing about things that empower us with age-appropriate, facts-based, scientific, and justice-centered sex ed, and how we serve the larger community, please contact Stacy Sosa at owl@mbuu.org for further information. So if today has piqued your interest about pagan UUism, please introduce yourselves to Reverend Julie and Reverend Carrie following the service in the Oasis Room. And know that there is an open invitation by SAS Cups to SAS Cups events like the Fall Equinox on Saturday, September 23rd at 6:15 p.m. in person at our sibling congregation, the UU Church of Tucson, and also on Zoom. I do hope that this morning has been a good one for you. And if not, that something good will yet happen to you today. And in that spirit, let us prepare to depart our time here in the Mountain Vista Sanctuary by sharing in a final good morning. Good morning.